That's just a note for future speakers. There's a danger zone there. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Eisenhower National Airport's 10-year celebration. We're so happy that all of you are able to make it here today. I am Jesse Romo. I'm the Director of Airports for the Wichita Airport Authority, and we've got a list of great speakers that are here to talk through the terminal. And I don't want to delay them at all, so I'm just going to jump right to it. Our first speaker is the Mayor, Lily Wu.
Thank you very much, Jesse. That is loud.
See,
that is very loud. Okay, thank you very much, Jesse. Can we first give a round of applause to the airport staff? If you're part of the airport staff and team, raise your hand. Thank you very much for making sure that you are Wichita's front door and welcoming folks to our community. Your work is not unnoticeable. I know because I've heard it from many people that come to visit our community. They know that it's the staff here that welcome them first, and that's their first impression of our city. It is my honor to serve as the 103rd mayor for the city of Wichita, alongside Councilmember Brandon Johnson, Councilmember Becky Tuttle, and Councilmember Dalton Glasscock, who are here with us today. This is a very momentous occasion, the 10-year anniversary, a decade of a lot of milestones that have happened here at Wichita's airport. But more importantly, it pays tribute to a person that we all respect as former President Dwight Eisenhower. One of his famous quotes was, "Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." The planning that it took to get us to this point in time cannot go unnoticed, so I would like to say thank you to the many electeds as well as staff for the city of Wichita who made this terminal possible. Can you give them a round of applause? Last but not least, President Eisenhower also mentioned in one of his other famous quotes, "History does not entrust the care of freedom to the weak or the timid. It took courage and strength to get to this point in time. This is the third terminal in Wichita's history, and it took a lot of vision for folks to remember that the front door to our community, to the air capital of the world, is this right here, the Dwight D. Eisenhower National Airport." So again, to the staff, to the teams that have made this possible, this is a momentous occasion, and I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize any of the other elected officials who are here in the room today. Can you just please also raise your hand? It takes collaboration and true partnership because, again, when we say Wichita, we really mean the entire community and greater parts of the city of Wichita, and they include our neighbors. And so I'm so grateful again to be here on behalf of the Wichita City Council with this really great congratulations to all of you. And without further ado, I would like to welcome up City Manager Bob Layton.
Let's try to see if there's...
I'll try to stay back. So, can you hear me okay? No. All right. What'd you do?
I didn't touch anything.
All right. First of all, I want you to know I'm a stand-in for the person who really should be here to talk about a legacy project, and that's Victor White. Victor was our airport director. He's the one that we should all thank for the vision that he created and for his drive to get it implemented. There's so many people, and thank you, Valerie. We should all applaud his work. There are so many people that were involved in making this project happen. I would be remiss if first I didn't thank the City Council that was in place about 12 years ago. Mayor Carl Brewer, this was an important project for him. I remember Councilmember Sue Schlapp from District 2, who also was a driving force. But it was, I frankly think, without the support of the airlines, this never would have happened. The people, not only who were serving the community 10, 12 years ago, but probably, I hate to single out one, but Southwest Airlines was what really put us over the top. There was a small group of people led by Victor and some elected representatives, some business representatives that went to Dallas and convinced the CEO of Southwest that they needed to be in Wichita. And when that happened, we knew that we had the finances secured because of their presence in this market to be able to go ahead and pull the trigger for the construction of this project. And so I thank everybody that was a part of that. I want to thank Valerie for all of her work with the airlines. She's the one that established the relationships and made them comfortable. Again, I'll get in trouble if I single out too many people, but I do want to thank Jim Armour, who was our city engineer and left that position in order to manage this project. And Jim could give you hours and hours of behind-the-scenes information about what it took to construct this. I want to join the mayor in thanking the current airport staff, because when I walk into this airport, it still feels like it did 10 years ago when we opened it. They have just done a phenomenal job. And I thank Jesse for his leadership out here with the staff. John Oswald, I'm sorry, I did see you out there. John had a key role, especially as we were moving forward with the second piece of this, which was the garage. So anyway, I just wanted you to understand a little bit of the dynamic and the people that helped make this happen. And my heartfelt thanks to them. Thank you. With that, I'm turn back to Jesse.
Thank you so much, Bob. As he says, you know, we can't do this alone. It takes a, that was me gesturing you over, John. It takes a village, and here to represent a key partner for us in the chamber is John Rolfe.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much, Jesse, and good afternoon to everyone. As Jesse's already introduced me, I'm John Rolfe, President and CEO of the Wichita Regional Chamber of Commerce, and it's truly a pleasure to be here with you all this afternoon as we celebrate what we call two milestones. One, the extraordinary tribute to President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and certainly the 10th anniversary of this wonderful world-class terminal here at Eisenhower. I was thinking about this as I came over, and just as a little side note, I can remember as a kid, longer than 10 years ago, having the opportunity to come up here as a child and go out and see up to the gates, and certainly see as family would be leaving, them go through the gates and get seated in their planes and have that wonderful privilege of waving goodbye and watching the planes take off. So it's always a fond memory every time I come out to the airport here. But as we honor certainly our past and look toward our future, I want to take the opportunity to emphasize how critical this airport continues to be, and specifically the direct air service to our region's economic growth and our competitiveness. For companies that do consider Wichita as a place to invest or relocate or expand, certainly one of the first questions that is often asked is, how easy is it to get in and out as they travel in and out or bring clients in and that type of thing? And I believe that's truly what makes our air service one of our most vital infrastructure assets. Direct flights connect us to many of our key markets across the country, but also present many global opportunities that allow our workforce pipelines and certainly new sources of innovation. That's why the Regional Chamber of Commerce has taken an active role over the many years in partnership with the Airport Authority and the many other elected officials to support our air service expansion through our Air Services Committee. This is a committee that works very close in partnership with the Airport Authority to advocate for new routes, maintain our existing service, and ensure that our region remains well connected to other businesses and other hubs. It's certainly a collaborative effort that directly supports the economic development growth and goals and helps ensure that our airport grows with the needs of our community. This continued development and certainly the modernization of this terminal are strategic investments in Wichita's future and in our ability to compete on the national and the global stage. And I think that's indicative of the many awards that the airport has received in recent years. And so to all of our elected officials, to the Airport Authority Board, to Jesse, Valerie, and certainly the entire Eisenhower Airport team. We want to say thank you for not only making today possible, but certainly for making the past 10 years possible. And we're excited to keep building on this momentum and look forward to working together in many other initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, John, so much, and we appreciate your partnership in helping make this a success. I would be remiss if I didn't tell a quick personal story on this. I understand, I can empathize with you, Bob, on being a last-minute fill-in speaker, because 13 years ago, for the groundbreaking ceremony that took place in the ARF station, I was asked to step in on behalf of the state of Kansas. And when Victor came up, he said, we were supposed to have the governor speak, but we got the next best thing. Yeah, it was a staff level bureaucrat, that was called just 3 hours prior out of his cubicle, threw on a suit and ran down here and gave a speech on behalf of the state, congratulating the community on groundbreaking for a terminal, said it's the front door to your community, it's world class. And I said at the end, I hope that when people show up, I have no doubt that when people show up, there will be no doubt in their mind that they've entered the air capital of the world. And so as we stand here and we look at the artwork that Greneman Group has done, showing the aviation history, you look at the architecture and design, and you see the pride of staff even today in maintaining its presence. There is still no doubt in people's minds when they arrive that they've come to the air capital of the world. And it is just a great honor of mine to have been a small part of that history and to be able to stand here as part of today's celebration to acknowledge those 10 years. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future. But I want to bring Valerie up here because she's got a wealth of information to share on, come on up, Val, and highlights with air service. And I'm going to embarrass her. We're going to miss Valerie too, by the way. And in a couple of weeks, you're going to see an advertisement go out for a position that looks very familiar. And it's because I'm not going to name any names, but somebody may or may not be retiring. So appreciate everything that you do, Val. Please, microphone is yours. Feel free.
Okay. See what I have to put up with. So yes, I'm retiring. October 31st will be my last day, and I have enjoyed 31 years at this airport. 20 years have been doing air service development. It's been challenging, but very rewarding, and I get to meet with so many great people in this community. And I tell you what, it's going to be hard to leave, but after 31 years, I think it's time to let somebody else do it. And Jesse, as far as being a last-minute addition to the event, groundbreaking event, I was a last-minute addition to speak today, too. So anyway. But this past decade has been a remarkable journey, full of growth. As you can see in this total passengers chart over here, whenever we have added new service, passenger traffic increases tremendously. You can see the dip in 2020 due to COVID, but we have bounced back and we have overcome challenges, even though there have been several challenges. Yes, COVID was a pandemic that just ruined the airline industry almost, but we've recovered from that. We also have other challenges such as pilot shortages, air traffic control shortages, aircraft delivery delays, and those are things that are kind of stalling our ability to add destinations. But despite the challenges, we were able to add 7 nonstop destinations in the last 10 years. We were able to reach a record number of passengers in 2024 with over 1.8 million total passengers. So to all of you that have flown in and out of this airport, thank you for your support. And just a little factoid for you, from June 2015 through April 2025, there have been more than 15.2 million passengers that have flown in and out of this airport. Our new terminal has been, and we still call it new, have to maybe get over that, but it's been a game changer for our region. As the saying goes, you only have one chance to make a good first impression, and I think this terminal does that. We continue to receive high scores on Google reviews. Passengers compliment the people who work here. And I tell you what, we have fantastic airlines. Our TSA has been voted #1 in the country, and our maintenance staff keep this spotless. And that's a compliment that we often get from passengers. So it's no wonder that in 2016 we were ranked 4th among small hub airports nationwide by Phoenix Marketing International based on 170,000 travelers. We have also earned national recognition. Since 2019, ICT has been ranked 3 times among the top 10 small hub airports in the U.S. by USA Today Reader's Choice. So this summer is expected to be a busy season for travel, and the airlines have added some extra capacity. In fact, 13% more flights and seats than what we had last summer. The main additions to the capacity is American Airlines. They are launching summer Saturday service to Miami, which starts actually this Saturday, and that will be through August 2nd. They have also added a 4th daily flight to Chicago, and they are bringing in a 150-seat Airbus aircraft on the Dallas flight, and we'll have 8 daily flights to Dallas. Delta will be adding a 4th nonstop flight to Atlanta in July and a 2nd daily flight to Minneapolis in June. We've badly needed those. United Airlines has added a 5th daily flight to Houston that will operate 3 days out of the week, and they have upgraded the aircraft on the Denver flight. They've taken away all 50-seat regional jets. We'll be operating the larger Airbus 319s, 320s, in addition to the larger regional jets. We continue to work very closely with our partner airlines. And as far as our goals for new service, we have identified 4 hubs that will greatly increase connectivity to and from Wichita. Those are Charlotte, New York, either LaGuardia or Newark, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles. Now these hubs have tremendous connectivity, but there are also some challenges with those hubs, such as slot restrictions, constraints, and construction activity. But despite these challenges, ICT has a strong case to add these markets, and I'm confident that someday in the future that we'll be able to add these hubs to our route map. Your company's travel demand plays a vital role in enhancing our air service. The airlines are interested in knowing what business connectivity that we have between Kansas and Charlotte or whatever destination we're working on. So if you have, if your business travel needs will support these new routes, I need to know that. I do appreciate so much the support from the business community, the Chamber.
That we had an aircraft accident occur earlier this year. It didn't happen here, but the flight originated from here. It impacted our airport, our community. But it gave us an opportunity, too, to experience how well everybody came together and responded to it. And so, Daniela, I want you to come up. It just kind of waved to the crowd for a second. Daniela was brand new to us as station manager for American Envoy, and her staff were the ones that were impacted most directly. What we saw in that time was just incredible, was amazing. The response, Nate put together a table because we had flowers delivered, 2 bouquets, and that's where it started. We set up one table, it became 2, became 3, became just multiple. The flowers were endless. The notes that people wrote expressing their feelings were just tremendous. And so what we ended up doing was taking pictures, and we put a collage together, and we framed it, and we have a little placard to commemorate the event. And so what we wanted to do today was to give this to American Envoy staff locally. This will probably be the last time many of you see it, because it's going to be hung behind the scenes. It's going to be hung in a hallway just outside their offices where they can see and they can be reminded, and so can our staff, that we can come together and we are one community. So Daniela, I thank you for everything you and your staff do, and please accept this gift of gratitude from us. Thank you. We'll take a picture. Okay, now, we talked a lot about the history, and just for reference, over 1.8 million people came in and out of the airport last year. It's an incredible growth. Valerie talked about the 10 years, beautiful charts here that she put together, shows the 10-year trend upward, 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 and that's where we keep heading and going. So at some point, you look around and you go, when are we going to need another terminal or more terminal? We already started asking ourselves that question. Just 3.5 years ago when I started, we had that challenge. Frontier was still here. We had another airline want to enter. We didn't have the space, so we thought. We put together a study and we started planning this out. And so right now we're finalizing the design, and we're going to be bidding out soon a project to do a remodel inside the terminal. Most of that work is going to be behind the scenes. It's going to create common use equipment that's going to be utilized to help give us more capacity of the space that we have, more capacity out of the gates that we have. We're going to add some ticket counters. So if you see here, there's a rendering that shows the ticket counter being wrapped around. We're going to have some video display boards, some new technology that will be incorporated to help the customer experience. Our technology will be improved, upgraded to help accommodate the trend towards more usage of apps and the tablets and the check-in kiosks that are utilized by the airlines. And so we hope to help expedite people through that technology process so we can continue to grow within this terminal as we continue to grow our community and the air service. And so you'll also see some of that flavor also at the gates. And then lastly, on the far left, we want to introduce some new security technology at the exit, so it won't just have a hallway, because TSA helps staff that area, but there's always budget cuts for that, and we want to make sure that we're set up appropriately for the future. So we did get a grant for most of this project, and we're going to start working on it later this year. So part of the dust, we have been communicating quite frequently with the airlines and sharing this plan. But, at some point, the customers will experience a little bit of the dust through the construction period. So we'll keep you updated through that, but we're very excited about setting up the future for us. What we're also excited about today is to hear some great storytelling from former Congressman Todd Hart on what we're about to unveil with an Eisenhower statue. So, Todd, if you could come up, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You handing out those mugs? Good afternoon. It's great to be with you today and to celebrate 10 years of the new terminal. I've had the opportunity to travel a lot, and this is one of the finest terminals in the United States. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay. But I wanted to tell you a story about Dwight David Eisenhower's statue in the United States Capitol, and also the maquette that we're dedicating here about that statue. So first I want to thank you for the kind introduction. Jesse. Without Jesse, this probably wouldn't have happened, so I really appreciate your contribution and your friendship. But it's my pleasure to share this with you, but I want to tell you how the maquette ended up here. It started in 1999 when my parents were in Washington, D.C. to visit my congressional office, and I took them for a tour on the Capitol. And as you walk through the Capitol, you'll see a lot of statues because each state is allotted 2 statues that can be put on display. At that time, Kansas statues in the Capitol were one of Governor George Washington Glick, located on the ground floor, which is referred to the Capitol Hall of Columns, and the other one was Senator John J. Ingalls, located in the 2nd floor in Statuary Hall in a place of honor. I was told by Senator Pat Roberts, who is an expert in these things, that Governor Glick was selected because he was the first Democratic governor for the state of Kansas, and Senator Ingalls was chosen because of his contribution to the Kansas state constitution. When we were in the hallway between Statuary Hall and the House chamber, my dad noticed Oklahoma's statue of Will Rogers. As many of you know, Will Rogers was a very popular figure in his time. And my dad turned to me and said, why doesn't Kansas have somebody that's more recognizable or that people are more aware of? You know, it was a very good question, and I didn't know. But later it occurred to me that Dwight David Eisenhower was someone we all knew about and was recognized as a son of Kansas, and making his presence in his statue in the United States Capitol seemed like a very logical thing to do. After all, he was a 5-star general. He was the supreme Allied commander who led the Allies to the defeat of Nazi Germany. Later, he was drafted by the Republican Party in 1952 as their presidential nominee, and he was elected 2 terms as president of the United States. I don't know about you, but I think you have to admit those are pretty impressive credentials. So then the research began. We started with my staff started with the architect of the Capitol, who informed us that no statue had ever been removed from the United States Capitol. They couldn't do it. They first would have to write a procedure, and they didn't have budget to write that procedure. Then we inquired with Legislative Counsel. Legislative Counsel is the government lawyers that are hired by Congress for legal matters and to keep them out of trouble. Now, as you know, they haven't been doing their part. Leg Counsel, as it's called, informed us that we need to obtain permission from the state of Kansas, and it's nice to have Speaker Hawkins here with us. It would have been a lot easier if you were around at that time, Dan. So we had to get 2 resolutions through the state of Kansas, which we were able to successfully do, thanks to the hard work of my staff. Next, we were informed that we needed permission from Congress to remove and replace the statue. Additionally, Congress must grant authority to the architect of the Capitol to establish the procedures for picking up one statue, hauling it out, grabbing another statue, and hauling it back in. In all, it required 4 acts of Congress. So we initiated the process by me adding an amendment to an appropriations bill. And just like that, the architect of the Capitol was funded, and off we started. Next, we reached out to the Eisenhower family. And I had lunch with John Eisenhower, the only child of Dwight and Mamie Eisenhower. He was a gentle man, a quiet soul, a retired brigadier general, and an accomplished author. And he listened intently as I laid out our plans and explained what we had done so far and what we had to do yet. And as we concluded lunch, he told me that we had his full support and that we should work with his children, though. You got my support, but I'm not going to do it. It's my kids that are going to do this, and they'll see it through. But for me, that was a great victory. For that was all we needed, a green light from the factory, so we were off and running. So in following his instructions, we reached out to his children, John and Barbara Eisenhower's 4 children, David, who's the oldest, who married President Nixon's daughter, Julie, and then his 3 daughters, Anne, Susan, and Mary Jean. And although we met them all, our primary contact was Susan because she was living in Washington, D.C. With Susan, they established a committee to select an artist, which included the 4 grandchildren and several other people that were associated with President Eisenhower, including 2 former generals that had served under him in Europe. The selection committee requested that maquettes be submitted along with the reasoning for the design. And I believe it was 8 artists that submitted maquettes. Now, while they were going through the selection process, we began raising funds for the cost of the artists, for the cost of transportation, for the cost of setting up an entity to handle all this. And in total, we raised about $350,000, and we were able to get a Kansas trucking company, Yellow Freight, to freely pick up the new statue in Lawrence, Kansas, and haul it out to Washington, D.C., and bring the old one back to Topeka. Well, before long, Susan came to my office and she said, "We found the artist. His name is Jim Brothers, and he's from Lawrence, Kansas." So I asked her what set him apart from the rest of them. And she said, "Well, we asked for maquettes to honor President Eisenhower for the U.S. Capitol. And Jim Brothers sent a maquette in of General Eisenhower, not President Eisenhower, but General Eisenhower, which was his way of honoring and what he thought was some of the greatest accomplishments of President Eisenhower." So that maquette that was selected was based on a photograph of General Dwight Eisenhower speaking to Lieutenant Wallace Strobel of the 101st Airborne Division on the eve of D-Day, June 5th, 1944. That's 81 years ago, almost to the date. Actually, it happened tomorrow. It'll be 81 years ago tomorrow. That picture remains one of the most compelling and iconic images of World War II. That iconic photo has now evolved into a renowned statue that stands in our nation's capital. Now back to the hard part, raising all the money. As part of the process, we asked Jim Brothers, the artist, to create 5 more maquettes. A maquette is about 27 inches high. It's approximately 1/4 the size of the original that's in the Capitol now. But so he created 5 more of those maquettes, and we used that in the process of raising money. I told donors that if you donate to this campaign, we will give you a wonderful thank you letter. It'll be very nicely done with a nice signature. But if you give $25,000, we'll give you a very nice thank you letter plus a maquette. And companies like General Dynamics, and there was a gentleman down in Wellington that stepped up to the task and donated $25,000 to the cause. So today I'm honored in presenting one of those maquettes to dedicate it here at Wichita's Dwight David Eisenhower National Airport on its 10th anniversary. I think it's kind of appropriate. One more thing. According to the architect of the Capitol, each new statue remains in Statuary Hall for 6 months, and then it's moved to another place of honor in the Capitol. I was hoping to keep Eisenhower in the rotunda. And if not, he was going to be, in fact, he was scheduled to be moved down in the Hall of Columns where Governor Glick had been in prior. So, and now a lesser known fact is that the Senate side of the Capitol is managed by the Majority Leader of the Senate, and the House side is managed by the Speaker of the House, but in between sits a rotunda. And so every other year it rotates between the House and Senate as to who is going to control it. Well, in 2003, the rotunda was overseen by the Senate, which was unfortunate for me because the House Oversight Committee was chaired by a guy named Tom Davis from Virginia, a friend of mine and a classmate, and he would have easily granted permission to leave Eisenhower in the rotunda. But instead I had to go talk to Alaska Senator Ted Stevens, whom I didn't know. So I humbly went over to the Senate side and arranged a meeting with Senator Stevens, and I went in to see him and I said, Senator, I'd like to keep Eisenhower's statue in the rotunda, and that's going to take your permission. And so I'm asking you for that permission. He looked at me over his glasses and he said, Todd, did I ever tell you how I got to Washington, D.C.? No, Senator, you didn't. Well, in 1958, President Eisenhower appointed me as Assistant Secretary of the Department of Interior. Of course, he can stay in the rotunda. And that was that. And that's where he resides today, in what I believe to be one of the greatest places of honor in the United States Capitol, the rotunda. So to wrap this up, I'm sorry that my wife Vicki couldn't be here with you. She had a conflict of interest, but I wanted to thank a few people. First of all, I wanted to thank my staff at that time. Some of you may remember who they are. Jeff Cars was my chief of staff, Wichita boy, and my legislative director was Amy Claire Bruce. My district director was Robert Noland, and behind the scenes working this was a guy named Sam Sackett, who's here today. So Sam, if you'd raise your hand, thank you for being here today. I also want to thank my wife, who is not here, but Sam, please pass this on to her. She's been the silent force of nature behind me, driving me all the way, and this is one of the things that she fully supported. I also want to thank the Director of Airports, Jesse Romo. We both at one time served on the board of the Kansas Air Museum, and I just approached him one night and said, here's what I'd like to do, Jesse. And he said, well, let's make it happen, and he did. So thank you very much for what you've done here. I also want to thank the mayor, Lily Wu, and the Wichita Airport Authority and the City Council, and other elected officials that support it, like my friend. And also, I just wanted to thank the people of the 4th District of Kansas for giving me the opportunity to do these things. It's been a great honor to serve, and I think this is a nice way for me to say it was fun, and I hope you enjoy it. So God bless you, God bless this great country, and let's celebrate the event. Thank you.
Okay, that about wraps it up for us for the ceremony. Very next thing that we're going to do is we're going to walk over, and we will, Todd and I will unveil the little maquette, the statue. And so it is right next to us on our way to the TSA checkpoint, under the FIDS monitors there. You'll see it in a second. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to everybody that's been here, the partners that we have that make the terminal successful, TSA, MSE, Parodies, all the airlines. Am I missing anybody? I'm sure I am. ABM, all the folks that are here helping us out, Greta Cop, and we appreciate everybody's support. Thank you so much.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you.
Every state gets 2 statues in the United States Capitol. And prior to 2003, no statue had ever been replaced. Once they had been put in the Capitol, they were permanently there. And I was giving my dad a tour in about 1999, and he said, who are the 2 statues you have for Kansas? And I explained. One was Senator Ingalls, who wrote our state's constitution, and the other one was Governor Glick, who was our first Democrat governor for the state of Kansas. And he said, why don't you get somebody, you know, that's more known or more popular? Why not Eisenhower? My dad was a World War II veteran, and so Eisenhower was big on his list, high on his list, I should say. And so I started looking into what would it take to change the statues out. Nobody had ever done it before, so the procedures hadn't been written. Nobody really knew where to start. So I went to the architect of the Capitol, since they have jurisdiction of moving things around inside the Capitol, and I said, what would it take? And well, they'd had to draw up new procedures. And so I started setting up a committee. I invited the Eisenhower family. Dwight Eisenhower had 1 son, John. John had 4 children. All 4 of them got involved. Susan was the point person for him, Susan Eisenhower. And we set up a committee to select the artist, who was Jim Brothers from Lawrence, Kansas. I was glad he was a Kansan. Very renowned sculptor. And I started raising money. I had to raise about $400,000. It took about 4 years. There were 2 resolutions that had to go through the Kansas State Legislature and 2 pieces of legislation, bills that had to go through the House of Representatives and the Senate. And through all that process, we were able to come up with the funding, the idea, the committee to select the artist and the final rendition. And in 2003, we placed that statue in the Capitol. Part of the process of raising funds for it was to make some maquettes. And Jim Brothers, the artist, made about half a dozen maquettes, which were 24 inches high. The statue's 8 foot high, so they're 1/4 the scale. And for anyone who donated $25,000, we provided them a statue. Well, there was one left, so I thought it would be appropriate if one of the statues or the maquettes was at Eisenhower National Airport. So here it's a replica of the 8-foot statue that stands in the rotunda of the Capitol. The maquette and the statue depict Eisenhower talking to the troops the day before D-Day. Eisenhower was speaking to the 82nd Airborne and trying to calm the troops. So he was telling them a fishing story, and he was holding an imaginary fishing pole in his hand, talking to the troops. And that's what Jim Brothers selected. That picture that was taken of him was what was used as his idea of making this sculpture. It was really a wonderful idea and very iconic. The picture had been circulated all over the United States. People recognized it immediately. And that was his starting point. And he made a wonderful replica of that picture and a great honor for President Eisenhower. I think the important thing about the Eisenhower maquette statue is that Kansas claimed Eisenhower as their own. And he was born in Texas, raised in Kansas, always considered Kansas his home. So I think it's appropriate to name our airport after Eisenhower. I think it's appropriate to have his maquette, which resembles the statue of Eisenhower in our Capitol. And to note that he is depicted as General Eisenhower, because we think of him as President Eisenhower, but he was actually the Supreme Allied Commander. A Kansan led the forces to free Europe. What a tremendous success and a tremendous honor for Kansas and for Eisenhower. And so I think for us to have some symbol of him that is recognized in the United States Capitol here as well is also important.
The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.